Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the second round of the ESRA Riley Championship presented by GT Omega Racing. The checkered flag has just come out for the end of qualifying. A couple of drivers are still trying to improve their times as they work themselves against the clock, and it looks though almost everyone now has completed their qualifying, and it is Jonathan Dick Clement who scores pole position for this race in a time of 1 minute 36.271. Now, of course, Dick Clemente and David Ward had a great battle 2 weeks ago at Daytona. They'll be looking to do the same here today at Watkins Glen, the 3.36 mile, 11 corner racetrack, running today on the no chicane version. So it is the boot without the chicane. That means after they work themselves out of turn one, they are going to be pretty much flat out until they get down to the carousel. So they will be flat out for about 20 seconds on this lap. Let's run through your grid. Row number 1, Jonathan Dick Clemente and David Ward. We talked about them already. Row number 2 is going to be Diego Comini and Mick Claridge. In row number 3, you have Mano Palumbo and Andrea Mazzaro, with row 4 being Mika Likri and Stefan Mushlar. Row number 5 will be Aero Nom and Carl Johan Heglin, and then in row 6, Kevin Vietemans and Vivian Caplet. In row number 7, Jose Almeida and Thomas Van Boosel. Row number 8, Peter Ridley and Andy Goodison. Row number 9, Andrea Diamekis and Julio Ornelas, and then in row number 10, Doriano Risciuti and Jeremy Maguire. The rest of the qualifying times coming up on your screen momentarily, and the cars right now are lined up on the grid behind the iRacing.com first safety car. They'll do one lap around the track and will be racing today for 45 minutes. Every other round of the ESRA Championship presented by GT Omega Racing from now on will be 45 minutes in comparison to the 60-minute race that we had just 2 weeks ago at Daytona. So things will be very interesting here today, strategy-wise, a lot to play for, and just like Daytona, a lot of drafting will come into play as well. I've already talked about it. As soon as you come out of turn 1, you'll be flat for over 20 seconds. You can really work yourself with the draft as you go up. The climbing S's through turn 2, 3, and 4, and down that long back straightaway. And you'll see a lot of cars coming out of the climbing S's move their car to the right hand side to mean that the driver overtaking will have to go around the long way. Of course, if you can stay side by side at the carousel, then you'll have the inside line into the treacherous, daunting turn number 6, which is that left-hander. It's about 150 degree in radii, and the way the track falls away, going downhill on a change of asphalt, can really make life tough for these drivers. Currently having a look at the cars, as I say, they're working on this back straightaway right now. So a total today of 40 cars making the trip to Watkins Glen. A total of 39 have set themselves a qualifying time. Philip Johansson in the number 33 car will be taking no part in this race. The field, well, that's a quite big field spread actually today. The slowest qualifier was Jose Carlos Campanuccio in the 39th position, a 144.020 for him, and he is a full 8 seconds slower than your qualifiers. And looks like he's struggling right now at the rear of the field. Perhaps might have some form of glitch to his car, and he stopped that car and started it again about 3 times now at the start of this pace lap. If you take away that 44 machine, then the cars are pretty much separated by about 6 seconds on the racetrack. So traffic will come into play here today on a track which is very narrow, very technical, and traffic could be a determining factor in who wins this race. So as I say, 45 minutes the cars will be running for here today at Watkins Glen. Right now they're working themselves on the 3rd straightaway. This is coming out of toe corner towards the heel. The very, very late break into the heel corner. And you've got to get yourself a good run into this corner and a good run out of it as well. Because then, the next corner, arguably probably the second most difficult on the racetrack, it will really set you up for the end of the lap. treacherous, daunting turn number 9. You go uphill, you want to brake as late as possible, and you want to get in the power as early as possible. You have to hold that inside line all the way through the apex of the corner, then floor it, then into the final 2 corners, turn number 10 and 11. This is where these drivers will really show their grit. Get yourself a good run through here, got a chance to make the pass down into turn number 1. So then, the iRacing.com first safety car about to make that trip down towards pit road. Say, it's Jonathan DiClement on the inside of row number 1. David Ward alongside him in the first row. Racing for 45 minutes here at the Glen. And the green flag is in hand. We are racing here at the Glen. The cars all stormed down into turn number 1 for the first time. Look at Diego Comini trying to go down the inside of David Ward into turn number 1. Will he get that job done? Yes, he will. But I'm going to stay too wide. And Ward actually gets the advantage coming through the climbing S's. Almost contact there through the field. They are still going to be too wide behind him. Almost 3 deep in a couple of places. Let's have a look. Is everyone being able to get through the first couple of corners okay? No, we have a couple of drivers involved. Remember, Palumbo is out of the race, and he was running in about the 6th position, so we have someone locked in the front of this field, and it looks as though he had contact with a car that was just all over the place there on the inside of turn 1. That was Mika Lickery there, who got a bump in that Mulber number 15 machine coming down into turn 1. That speared him off the racetrack, and I'm just going to get confirmation of who it is exactly who bumped him. It was actually Aero Non in the 3 car who late braking ran into the rear of Lickery, who then hit Palumbo. And as that was going on, we had another couple of drivers involved. Kevin Beekerman involved in the incident. We have Vivian Caplet who's turned around as well. Behind them, it looks as though a lot more of the drivers are able to get through, but they all then got stacked up as they worked themselves into the climbing S's for the first time. I said they were 3 wide from Fred Joseph, Thomas Van Boosel, and Derry Keckins were almost 3 wide as they came into the climbing S's for the first time. But as they get close to the end of lap number 1, it is Jonathan DiClement leading the way with about 7 tenths of a second gap right now over David Ward in the battle for that first position. In the 3rd spot is Diego Comini in the number 31 car. Then Mick Claridge is in 4th, and then then Andre Massario then looks like he's going to complete that lap in the 5th position in this race. Aaron Nom goes very wide there out of turn number 1. That is going to allow Andre Massario to get the run as they come up the top of the climbing S's. Now you've got to be careful here. If you get that run too early, you're still going to have pretty much be single file. You'll lose that momentum, and that could really hurt you into the straightaway. But here comes Massario on the outside. He will clear Nom by the time they get down into the carousel. So Massario will be able to take whatever line he wants in that design car, and he moves himself up into the 4th position on the racetrack as we're working ourselves on lap number 2 in this race. And out front, DiClemente, so he was able to get about 8 tenths of a second gap on that first lap. So he's done everything that he needed to do early on in this race, and that is just make sure he can maintain that gap from David Ward. He's not been able to get up to that 1 second bracket yet, at which point Ward would start struggling for the chance to use that draft. And we'll get confirmation of what it is by they come out of the 2nd lap. Currently working themselves down in towards turn number 10 once again. And it looks like Ward actually has maintained that gap at about 8 tenths of a second. But Ward does look as though he's a little bit slower there through turn number 10. That allowed the gap to open up by about another car length as they come down towards the start-finish line once again. And this time we'll get confirmation of exactly what the gap is as they come past the line. And it is up to 1.1 seconds, and that's exactly what DiClemente wanted. So let's run through. We've got 3 confirmed retirees in this race. We've got Mika Lickery, Amamba Palumbo, and Stefan Mushler. They are out of the race, but also Kevin Beekerman looks like he has just retired, as has Kenneth Dummer. And yes, so a total of 4 retirees in this race so far. And the gap between DiClemente and Ward, that is stabilised now, about 1.2 seconds on the racetrack. But Comini behind him, in that number 31 car, he, last time by, lost about 2 tenths of a second to David Ward. If he wants any chance of being able to get into the hunt for this race victory. He needs to push now as we're working ourselves on lap number 3 in this race. Andrew Massario in the 4th position. Now, he really has dropped back. He's already 4.6 seconds behind your race leader. As we've got Andy Goodison there off. Contact there. And Goodison leaving his car creates contact with Julio Olanius in the number 59 car. Now, something happened to Goodison, and we're going to get confirmation of exactly where that is. And this was down into turn number 6 on the racetrack. Goodison, he goes a little bit wide. His car gets all squirted, and he leaves that car across the racetrack, and then he catches Julio Ornelius. I'm not sure if any damage there was happened to that number 59 car. We'll probably get confirmation in the next couple of corners. It does look as though Ornelius has dropped back just a little bit, however, and now he's being pressured by Dorania Risciuti in the number 77 machine in what is technically the battle for about 11th position on the racetrack. And in fact, Risciuti there had to get very early on into brakes into turn number 11 because Ornelius really was struggling in that section of the racetrack. So then, working ourselves now onto lap number 4 in this race. And it does look as though that last time by, Ward was a little bit faster than Di Clemente. He was able to close that gap down by about half a tenth of a second on the racetrack. But Comini now really has started falling back. He's now 1.6 seconds behind David Ward. And again, he lost 2 tenths. And now he will be out of draft range. And that is going to be the difficult point for him. Meanwhile, Carl Jordan Heglin and Jose Almeida having a great scrap right now for 6th and 7th positions on the racetrack. They are trying to trade positions there, and that last time by, it did look as though that Heglin almost got the jump there on Almeida, just wasn't able to get the job done at the very end, however, and he falls back into line for the time being, so he'll have to wait perhaps another couple of corners, probably until the next lap if he's going to get the job done there. Behind them, you've had, it looks as though that a couple of drivers have actually gone off on that last lap because Risciuti has been able to get past Ornelius, in fact, yeah. Ornelius has been passed by a couple of cars. Thomas Van Boosel is one of them, and also Daniel Risciuti. So I talked about how Ornelius may have had some issues there after his contact, and it does look as though that is costing 2 positions. Of course, he'll just want to try and bring that car home now, and to see whether or not he can survive towards the end of the race. And in fact, Ornelius goes down into the 12th position. Behind them, Fred Joseph losing a position to Andrea Demichius. As these 2 drivers, Fred Joseph and Andrea Demichius, they are very closely separated on the racetrack right now. The number 66 car is running in the 14th position. Ahead of him is Andrea Demichius. He is running in the 13th spot right now, and they are continuing to battle for position. It doesn't look as though Fred Joseph is going to have any chance of closing that gap up, however, as we work ourselves now on lap number 5 in this race. You've got a little bit of a pack forming from about 16th position, Danny Keckins in the 47 car, all the way up until about Thomas Van Boosel in the 11th position. Those 5 cars right now are separated by about 4 seconds on the racetrack. So, one driver makes a mistake there, it can be very, very costly for those drivers in that section of the field. Be interesting to see how that one plays out in the next couple of laps or so. Meanwhile, let's have a look out front, and that gap has now started to increase, and it started to increase pretty dramatically because David Ward has lost draft range. It's now 1.6 seconds the last time they came across the line. So he won't get that draft now. In fact, it is again. He's lost about another half a tenth of a second to Jonathan Di Clemente. So, David Ward in that second position is losing time. However, he's kind of stabilised that gap to Diego Comini behind him. So, Comini isn't losing that much anymore. In fact, last time by, David Ward at 137.146. Comini was 3 tenths of a second slower, but it did look a lot better through turn 1 and 2 that last time by. Meanwhile, you've Jose Almeida, and he is right behind Aero Nom in the battle for the 5th position. Here comes Almeida down to the inside, into the carousel. He will try to complete that pass. He will not be close to that. He does go to the inside. He goes on the curb a little bit, and then he will complete the pass. Aaron Nom's car just wasn't working on the outside of the carousel there. He had to yield that position, but for a moment it did look as though that Nom was going to be able to keep that position because he held the car just so well on the outside there, and it did look as though ahead of him, Rosario just struggled clipping that curb, and that shows that this track, the carousel, arguably is one of the most important corners. As I said before, if you're on the outside, if you're the car being passed or the car that is trying to get past, then the important thing is simply to try and hold that line and hope that the drivers around you don't work. And here comes Nom back again. He will retake that place there down into turn number 9. That is a difficult place to make the pass, but he does complete a pass there. In fact, I take that back because that is Peter Ridley. And Aaron Nom went off the racetrack, and the number 58 car of Jose Almeida, he has wrecked, and we saw that up on your screen. And this was coming into turn number 8. We'll try and get a replay up once again on your screen. He just loses the car, and that's what happened to Nom. Nom actually just hit him, and that's what the issue was with Aaron Nom. And that's why he lost the position there to Mick Claridge, and Peter Ridley was right behind him. I took that wrong way round, I'm sorry for that, but Peter Ridley's gained a position from that. Aaron Nom has lost a couple of positions, most importantly to Mick Claridge in the 71 car, who is now up into the 5th position on the racetrack. So then, right now, we are working ourselves on lap number 7 in this race. It's a 45-minute timed race here. So, basically, it could be, and this will be interesting when we come to talking about fuel a little bit later on, it could be a situation that a couple of the drivers, if they have to do that one extra lap, there could be some big difficulties for them a little bit later on because of the fact that that one extra lap, it will probably be worth about half a tenth of a second per lap. However, if you haven't got enough fuel in your car, then it can be very, very difficult. And you'll have to either start saving fuel early if you think that the car up front is going to do that extra lap, or alternatively, you're going to have to come down pit road, and coming down pit road will really be catastrophic for these drivers. But out front, oh no, Jonathan Di Clemente there. This was down into turn number 1. And Jonathan Di Clemente looks as though he is out of the race. We'll get the replay up there. The number 43 car, just outside my shot. He just lost it coming down into turn number 1. And we saw this in our coverage of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Cars losing it in turn number 1. Now, Di Clemente, he just lost it on the inside curve. Normally, it's the outside curve where you lose it. But Di Clemente is out of the race from the lead. We'll get ourselves a replay of that up on your screens in just a moment. But what a tragedy there for Jonathan Di Clemente, who started this race in pole position. He had led every single one of the first 7 laps and a corner in this race. He is now out, and we did not expect him to have that issue. Jonathan Di Clemente, I'm saying he must surely be upset with what happened there, because he had built up a 2.1 second gap to David Ward at that point, and he was pulling away from the number 69 car. Now, we know how fast that 69 car can be in the middle part of the race. That is the car, of course, of David Ward. But we did not expect Di Clemente to make a mistake, especially this early on. And that pretty much now gives David Ward the race lead, and it will give him the lead by about 2.4 seconds over Diego Comines. To come past the stripe, we will get confirmation. In fact, no, Comines that last lap was able to eat into the lead of David Ward a little bit, but we're getting word that it might just have been because Ward had to check up because of what happened to Di Clemente. So David Ward did lose out that last time, right? It's 138.5 for him and a 137.8 there for Diego Comines. So 7/10 of a second is what David Ward lost on that last lap. And that is the reason why now the gap is down to 1.7 seconds on the racetrack, and David Ward's got to be careful. I remember we did a race at Mosport in the IndyCar early on in GlacierTV's history, and we had about 4 cars from the race lead crash. We will not want to see that happen here today. So, now we'll run through your top 10 in just one moment. But as I say, it is now David Ward. He is leading the way. And he's got that gap, so about 1.7 seconds on the racetrack to Diego Comini. And right now, he has got himself a further 4 seconds almost to Andre Misiari, who is running in about third spot on the racetrack. Mick Claridge, I talked about how he was able to gain a couple of positions earlier on because of issues that happened to some guys around him. He right now is running in the 4th position in this racetrack. And then it's Thomas van Boesel who is running in the 5th position. In the 6th spot is Andrea Demikis. In 7th is Fred Joseph. In 8th is Julio Onelius. 9th is Danny Kirkins. And then rounding out your top 10 is Matteo Saletti. And let's have a look at how much time we have left on the play clock. It is now about 15 minutes of this race scored complete. So we've got ourselves half an hour's worth of racing to go. And that gap has grown back that last lap between David Ward and Diego Comini. It's now back up to 2.3 seconds on the racetrack. Having a look at Patrice Languette right now. Now, Patrice is running in the... I'm just trying to get my timing and scoring up. I apologise. Patrice is running in the 9th position on the racetrack. He has got himself about a tenth of a second gap to Matthias Yelady ahead of him. They are battling for 8th and 9th position on the racetrack. Now, Languette started this race all the way down in the 24th position, and able to make himself up into the 9th spot. He had a difficult qualifying time, 1 minute 38.385. Ahead of him, Saledi started in the 28th position and is now running in the 8th spot. So he, by far, is one of the biggest movers of the day. He's been able to gain himself a total, get this, of 20 positions on the racetrack. That is phenomenal there. On the number 14 car, the European Sim Racing Association machine of Matteo Saledi. And you have to say, what a great start to the race by him. And say up 20 positions. In fact, if we had a look through the biggest movers in your top 10, you also have Joseph up 19 positions since the start of the race. Languette up 15 positions. Nick Phillip is up 11 positions since the start of this race. So it's kind of a big move by some guys in the top 10. Rodden in the 15th position up 20 positions. Lesu up 20 positions in the 17th position. And let's not forget, as the cars were scrambling at the start of this race to get away from that turn number 1 wreck, you saw a lot of cars being able to make up a lot of positions very early on. Okay, let's check in with the battle we have right now for 11th and 12th positions on the racetrack. This is Tom Cable and Anthony Vaught, I say, battling for 11th and 12th positions on the racetrack. And it does look as though that Vaught's just been struggling a little bit in turn number 1. He's not really been able to get that run out of the first corner like he needs to really make good use of that long straightaway in the 448 machine, trying to get past Tom Cable. But those drivers right now are only separated by about 4/10 of a second on the racetrack as they work themselves back down into the carousel once again, working ourselves in lap number 11 overall. And Aaron Nom is now out of the race, by the way. We'll run through your full retirees. So Aaron Nom is out of the race. Jose Almeida is out of the race. There's some big players who qualified in the top 10 are no longer in this race. As I say, we'll run through your list of retirees, and unfortunately it is a big list. Mika Lickrick, Amanda Palumbo, Stefan Mushlar, Kevin Riekemann, Kenneth Dummer, Lawrence Watlet, Carl Burke, Andy Goodison, Andrea Burandi, and Sebastian Ferrer, and Jose Almeida, Peter Ridley, Judith Patilis, Carl Hagelin, and Aaron Nom are all out of the race, as is, of course, the guy who qualified on pole position, Donovan Dickman, and Doriano Raschuti is out of the race now, as well as is Danny Keckland. So, I've been able to get my timing and scoring working, so I can get a bit more in depth into some stuff. We'll talk about your top 3 drivers first of all. David Ward, 2.3 second gap over Diego Comini, a 2.7 second gap between Comini and Andrea Misiari. Those 3 drivers have, however, really pulled away from Mick Claridge, who's running in your 4th position. From Claridge to Van Boesel, however, you have a total of, get this, 16 seconds on the racetrack already in this race, and we're not even at the halfway portion of this race. Andre Demikis, running in the 6th spot, is 4 seconds back from Van Boekel. Fred Joseph, a further 3 seconds back, and he's running in the 7th position. Patrice Languet in the 8th spot is running a further 5 seconds back, and in fact, that's probably our closest battle in the top 15 right now between Patrice Languet and Matthias Saledi. So we'll go back to that, because last time by, Saledi, actually, it looks as though he might have lost that position to Patrice Languet. Last time by, a 1 minute 40.537 for Saledi, a 1 minute 39.417 for Patrice Languet. So that 0.9 car, a much better lap last time by compared to Matthias Saledi, and it does look as though Saledi is going in the wrong direction. He's lost himself about 3/10 of a second in this lap alone. So that battle, I say it was hotting up, it's kind of died down already. You don't have to go back to probably the Anthony Vaught Tom Cable battle, but that's actually disappeared in itself, because it looks as though that Anthony Vaught has had some form of an issue on that last lap in the number 448 machine, and he's dropped well down the field. He was classified at 12 last time by, and he actually had an issue coming up the climbing S's. I'm just trying to see exactly what happened. No, he lost it all by himself. He had to get on the defensive because a car, it looked like it was going to cut across him coming into the climbing S's. He then just clipped the wall. He's damaged his suspension in about 3 corners, and that has really hurt him, and he's fallen down the field. He pretty much is going to now be classified as out of the race, but it was, in many ways, his pure own driver error, because of the fact that he just essentially speared that car to right by himself. Yes, there was a car ahead, which almost came across him, but for Anthony Vaught, he now is scored in the 14th position and is coming under attack from Vivian Caplet in a hurry. Let's see whether Caplet will be able to do anything compared to this damaged race car. It'll be very interesting to see once we get into the twisty section of this racetrack, because Caplet has already taken about 4/10 of a second out of Vaught in this lap alone. You see, Vaught is already going defensive as they work themselves down into the carousel. But this is probably the point where Vaught will struggle to much high speed. These cars love their aerodynamics, but if you damage the aerodynamics, there's just no way at all you can get that car to turn. You can see that from Vaught all the way through the carousel. His car was just not responding the way he wanted to. Then down into turn number 6, again, he was running a very wide apex. He just couldn't get the car turned in at all. But Caplet was not able to make any inroads. In fact, he's lost about a second in those series of 4 corners. So perhaps Anthony Vaught might have been able to dodge a bit, or maybe he's been able to set his car up in such a way that he's not really hurting that much. In fact, Vivian Caplet is running very slowly on the racetrack. And I just noticed he was barely hitting 130 miles an hour, so maybe Caplet has some damage that I'm not fully seeing. I know his front end is bent up a little bit, but it shouldn't be to the fact that he's going that slowly around the racetrack, and Caplet really is off the pace right now. His last lap of 139.3. Maybe Caplet is trying to do something here. Let's have a look. He's coasting himself down into the final corner, and of course that's making the car nervous. He's bringing his car onto pit road. So, things have really settled down in this race, I have to say. We've got a lot of cars on pit road right now. And for Caplet, it does look as though he might have almost been out of fuel. Odious Cadilis is on pit road. Nick Phillips on pit road. Caplet on pit road. Perhaps he's trying to coast back. He was very light on fuel. Julia Onalius is on pit road right now. David Ward still leads this race with 15 laps. Going to be scored complete the next time they come past the start-finish line. Now, David Ward, of course, started this race in the 2nd position. Is able to get the lead after Jonathan Di Clemente had his crash down at turn number 1. Has led since then. He's been able to pull out now a bit of the gap, but Diego Comini in the last lap was able to eat into that just a little bit. Pretty much identical laps last time by, but Comini's been able to take about half a second out of David Ward in the last 3 circuits of this race. And we'll see a lot more drivers, I believe, coming onto pit road in the next couple of laps to make their one and only stop of the day. Right now, we've got Fred Joseph on pit road, Andrea Brandini on pit road, Danny Kakins on pit road, and let's see who else we've got. I say Onelius is still on pit road. So a lot of drivers right now are looking as though they are on pit road with damaged set of race cars, as Maguire is coming onto pit road. from the 23rd position. If something happened to Maguire on this lap, we'll just get a look back at our cameras to see whether anything has. And he was going very slowly, so something must have happened to his race car. And he was running in about the 10th position before that happened. So troubles there for the 23 car. Let's not forget, started this race in the 20th position, was able to make up a lot of ground early on. And his car right now is on pit road. He is out of pit road, however. And Laurent Wesselet is on and off of pit road himself. And Nick Phillips there going very close to the wall and going very slowly, actually, coming out of the final corner. And he's lost himself a lot of time. Andre Messiah just gone past him. By the way, David Ward has brought his car onto pit road, and he is going to get service to that number 69 car. So David Ward from the race lead. Let's see what his pit stop will be. Down into the second to last pit box. He's got a clear track out, and unfortunately for David, he doesn't need to put the pit limiter on coming out of pit road. He can actually just floor that car. He won't get to 45 miles an hour before the cone, so he doesn't need to worry about pit road. And David Ward, something's happened to David Ward. He is out of the race. And I'm having a look. I'm wondering whether there was an issue to his car. He might have actually been involved in an incident there. But something happened to David Ward. And what happened was, something happened on the final corner there. He just lost the car and then he got T-boned. We didn't see it originally on our screens, but David Ward is out of the race. So a second driver now who has led this race is now out of this race. And that means that Diego Comini is now your race leader. We're getting a replay up on your screen now. You see he had some lap traffic he had to go down to the inside of in turn number 10. Then it's turn number 11. Perhaps his line was having to be a little bit different because of the apex he took into turn 10. And he just spun that car around. The lap car had nowhere to go. Just T-boned David Ward, and he is out of the race. And we're going to try and talk to him. Remember, you are on a live broadcast, David. What happened?
My wheel broke. I don't even know. There's no force feedback or anything on it.
So you're the second driver who's led this race and is out of the race. And I said a little bit earlier on that we had an IndyCar race at Mosport on GlacierTV about a year and a half ago, where 4 drivers at least from the race lead has crashed out. I'll tell you what, I'm going to come back to you in a moment because Diego Comini is going through a lot of traffic and contact there. And that could always be a third car who is going to be out of the race. And Comini looked as though he was just about able to get around. But there's another look at the carnage that has just happened there. And that was Eudis Gutierrez and also Jeremy Maguire. And they were working themselves out of the carousel down into turn number 6. And Maguire was on the outside. And it looks as though, yeah, he just spun that Nova Racing car into Eudis. Eudis is out of the race. But Diego Comini dodged the bullet. And I think that was actually no, it wasn't. It was Jose Carlos Campino there. Another lapped car who got involved. Andre Massaro was able to dodge a bullet there as well. But it's been a tough day for leaders in this race today. The important thing is, however, that your 2 race leaders driving for the same team, Team GT Racing, now scored as 1 and 2 in this race. Mick Cloud 3rd, Thomas Van Boosel 4th, Andrea Demikis in the 5th position. We'll try and get a look at that replay. In fact, we have had a replay there of what happened. In fact, replay is now up on your screen of all the carnage that happened down at turn number 6. David, this track is very narrow. That means, and there is a big spread, about 6 seconds from the leader down to about 38th position. I won't put in the car who qualified last because he was a further 2 seconds off the pace. However, big field spread, lots of cars, means a lot of traffic. Accidents can happen, but there's been a lot of accidents today.
Yeah, Jonathan was ahead of me and he was pushing a really fast pace, and I was just like, well, I'll let him go because I know we're going to keep with him. And then he went off and it was just like, well, you know, he was pushing really hard. I think he was trying to build a gap up for the pit stop. And then, yeah, he crashed out and I took over the lead, and I was thinking, well, I've got a nice gap over second. And then I started having some, like, I started pulling a little bit, and then the steering went a little bit funny as I was going into the corners, and it wasn't. It's weird. I think, I don't know, magnets or whatever, but it just kept twitching in the corners, so it was slowing me up a little bit, and he was gaining on me every little bit, and then just as I was coming around on that last corner, it just completely went haywire. Really sorry to the guy who collected me. I'm gutted because I haven't got another wheel. I don't even know if I can carry on with this series. So yeah, really gutted, mate.
Hugely disappointing there for the 69 car of David Ward. Hugely disappointing also for Jonathan Di Clemente. We say 2 leaders out of this race. And Diego Comini dodged a huge bullet in that 31 car. We've got 15 minutes left of this race, and believe David will try and stick around. But let's run through your top 10. Now things have calmed down just a tiny bit. Diego Comini with a 2-second lead over Aaron. No, I take that back. Andre Massario is now your scored as your race leader, so he's been able to get himself past Diego Comini. So it's going to be, what, our 4th lead change in this race. I wonder if anything has happened, actually, to Comini. I'm just having a look back to see whether anything happened to him at all. In fact, he just made his pit stop. So that is why he fell down just a little bit. Massario in the 89 car is currently scored to say as your race leader. It looks like he had a better pit stop than Comini. So Massario from Comini, from Claridge, from Andrea Demikis, and he's currently scored on pit road. Thomas Van Boosel is then up into the 4th position. Demikis down into the 5th position. Fred Joseph is scored in 6th, running on the racetrack. Patrice Languet in 7th, Matthias Saledi in 8th, Peter Jensen in 9th, and Tom Cable round out your top 10 in this race. And David, the 2 GT drivers, Andre Massario and Diego Comini. Now, Comini was within about 2.5 seconds of you for a majority of that stint. Now he's got to try and close back up to the rear of teammate Massario and try and get past him with 13 minutes scored left on the play clock. Going to be an interesting battle now for the race lead.
Yeah, he's got some good pace. He was pushing quite hard towards the end. Sorry, I completely missed they've pitted, haven't they? Oh,
yeah, they have.
God,
yeah, and I just saw a big incident there.
Even more carnage.
I know, and Comini was able to get past. Oh no, Massario! Massario was involved in it, and this was coming out of the second to last corner. I thought he was able to get past, but the 3rd leader from this race, Andre Massario, a back marker there, and I'm gonna have to say there, David, car placement. And Massario, he tried to get a gap that didn't really exist.
I don't know, Massario, it looks like Massario was just going around the outside, and he had it. But in that section, it is so difficult to overtake, because unless you're like 20-30 miles an hour faster than the car in front, you're going to have struggle. I mean, this guy's already got damage. Leslie's already got damaged, but it's so difficult to overtake there. I mean, he should have pulled right over out of the way, but it's one thing saying it afterwards in hindsight. But yeah, that's really unfortunate for Massario. So let's give Diego the lead again.
Yeah, I was talking about how Diego had to catch, and of course that might have come down into Massario a little bit because of the fact that he was thinking, well, I've got to keep this lead. I think if he just gotten stayed out of the gas and rolled into a tiny bit later to try and put that car to the outside, he might have been able to do something to the final corner. I always say it's kind of single file through there, but Comini, I had a look back at the replay, he was so close to be taken out in that as well. That would have given Mick Claridge. Mick Claridge is now running in the 2nd position in this race. In the meanwhile, you did see it on your screen, Patrice Languet was able to get himself past the 66 car of Fred Joseph. So Languet's been able to move himself up into the 4th position now in this race, and he's got a 22-second gap to Thomas Van Boosel, however. I think there's an issue. Oh, here comes Joseph once again. He's very close. I don't think this battle is over between the 09 car and the 66 machine of Languet and Joseph. I think one of the issues is that there are a lot of drivers who think that they can drive their car on the racetrack, being a second, 2 seconds off the pace.
You could have just left it there. But yeah, there's a big discrepancy between the drivers, and I think some of the slower guys need to um, understand blue flags. But you know, I had a few moments, and Coroner's having a few moments. But anyway, let's not digress on that. Fred is really going for it now, and he's got a Mika behind him there, ready to pounce on him on the back straight.
Yeah, you've got 3 cars right now separated by about a second on the racetrack. That is Patrice Languette in 4th. You have yourself in 5th, Fred Joseph, then in 6th is Andrea D'Amicis. We have got ourselves 10 minutes and 15 seconds left on the play clock, and I do want to go back to that point, actually, about lap traffic, because that could actually become a very key factor in this 3-car battle. And I've talked about field spread. You see, some of the drivers 6 seconds lap. So, of course, if they get a little bit of damage on a race car, that 6 seconds then becomes something more in the region of 8 or 9 seconds. And on a track that's only 1 minute 30, 1 minute 40 seconds long, that can really have a big difference there, as Fred Joseph is getting very sideways coming out of toe corner. And the difficulty then becomes, of course, your car that's essentially going to be about 10 seconds off the pace, and it's a very fast track here. That's what makes things very different. But I tell you what, these 3 cars are bunching back up, and Joseph's looking very squirrely there in the middle portion of that lap, and he's still closing up on Patrice Languette, but D'Amicis is closing in as well now. And in fact, Joseph gets a better run out of the final corner, and that costs D'Amicis about 2 tenths, because he couldn't get that final corner. Now, Fred Joseph now all over the rear, Patrice Languette coming down into towards turn number 1 once again. He looks like he gets a good run out of it. And I saw the list a little bit early on as well. You got the time that he catches the car out the climbing S's, as Joseph just touches the curve a little bit. He won't quite get the run he needs. He will be close, and it will all come down to downforce. Let's see whether Joseph has the gear he needs, has the downforce he needs set up the car. You see, he is going to be very close. He might look down to the inside. He will look down to the inside. But he gets on the brakes early there, and that allows the chance for Languette to stay. And you see, you can't brake that early into the corner. Then you're going to be on the outside for the next corner. This is where Languette will have the pass. And Joseph gets sideways. That will allow D'Amicis to go past.
Yeah, it's really hard through that section unless you can get, even if you get down the inside through the carousel, you're on the wrong side for the next left-hander, and then you've got the upstate. I mean, he's really going to struggle now, because unless he can hold it around the outside here, which I very much doubt, he's better. Oh, he's giving it a go. There he is. Awesome. And now he's got the inside for the next corner. Now this corner is really tricky because the car goes very, very light when you start getting on power. As you can see, it just started twitching. And he's really got some nice drivers. He's having a quick look down the inside, but this left-hander here is fantastic, really drifting around there. This next corner as well, you want to keep it really tight and then get on the power nice and early, but he's just about to brush the wall. That's great racing.
D'Amicis goes back past him, so move D'Amicis back up into your top 5, move Fred Joseph down into the 6th position. Of course, what that has done, it is allowed Patrice Languette to gain a 2.7. He's been able to gain 2 seconds on that lap alone because of the fact D'Amicis and Joseph were pretty much running side by side for half of that lap. It does look as though that Joseph's car is very, very nervous right now. It does look as though Joseph will be anywhere near close enough to make the pass up, this time up the hill compared to D'Amicis. But this will be a battle to the end of the race now. And Joseph closed that gap down to 3 tenths of a second. I think that car works better in dirty air, actually, compared to D'Amicis's. And I do think that Joseph's car just doesn't seem to be working in clean air very well, but it does look to be very far behind another car. And normally you get the good advantage you need on the straightaways, but in the corners you suffer greatly. And Joseph struggled a little bit there in turn 6, but through turn 7, still pretty good there. Better apex out the corner.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of... He's struggling on the exit though. It's like the car's just understeering a little bit. So that's why he's quite good on the brakes as he goes into the corner here. Just can't get on the power quick enough. I think Andre's going to make a move and start pushing forward, but Thomas Van Boosel, is he
It looks as though
just
he's
told-
out of the race. No, he's been able to move up into the second position. Mick Claridge is the one who's out of the race. Again, sorry, we've had some issues with our timing today, but Mick Claridge is now out of the race. And they get confirmation, this was done in turn number 1. And this was a very scary moment, actually, for Mick Claridge. He blew his engine down into turn 1. We'll get ourselves a replay of this. But, of course, with the Rileys, it's very different, for example, in the GT3 car, the McLaren, where, you know, you can just slam down the gears. It won't let you change down too early. Mick Claridge there, looks like his engine blew up, and he just speared it into the Armco barrier. He is out of the race, and Claridge is having a great run in that number 71 car. He qualified in the 4th position, running in 2nd, now will be classified well down the field. Disappointing there for 71 car.
Yeah, he's got a really good pace. I was watching him in practice, and he had a good pace throughout over the long run. And there was one I was watching as well, same as with Diago. I knew Jonathan would be quite quick, but yeah, it's a shame really. That corner's really tricky though, because if you've not got your gearing right and you start banging down the gears, you can just over rev a little bit, and then if you keep doing that, you know, over 45 minutes, it's going to take its toll on the engine.
So, we have got ourselves left on the play clock 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Unfortunately, we can't get your replay there of what happened to Mick Claridge, but essentially he just blew the engine up, coming down into turn 1. That was it. Game over. End of the race for him. So, for your top 10, Diego coming in now with a, get this, 31-second lead over Thomas Van Boosel. Patrice Langet in 3rd position. Then you got Andrew Demikis in the 4th spot. Demikis, he is closing that gap, and as they come past start finish line, let's have a look at their lap times. It is a 139.7 for Langet, a 139.1 Andre Demikis. So there is still the chance that Demikis will be able to catch Patrice Langet. Of course, closing is one thing, passing is another. Fred Joseph looks like he's fallen off just a little bit. He's now 1.5 seconds behind Andre Demikis. That touch off the wall coming out of turn number 11 looks like that has really put paid to his chance of getting onto the podium here today. Mattia Saletti in 6th position, Tom Cable in 7th, Peter Jensen in 8th, and Vivian Caplet right behind him though for 3/10 of a second back. And then in 10th is Axel Dortmund as we go to look at Vivian Caplet in the 46 car. Now, I talk about timing your runs, and I say this as a fan of Champ Car racing back in the late 90s, when it really did come down to timing a run when you had the Hanford device on the cars. For Caplet, let's go down the inside. Come on, will he be able to get the job done? He's going to break very late, and he does complete the pass there. That is a bold pass down onto the inside of turn number 6 there for Vivian Caplet in the number 46 car over Peter Jensen. I was actually going to say that he lost the chance to make the move like that because he just lost that momentum through the climbing S's. And of course, if you get out the gas there, then you're going to be struggling all the way down the backstretch towards the carousel.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that looked like it was a bit of a do or die move, but fair play. I mean, they're both racing still, so really good driving. This corner's horrible. I absolutely hate that corner, but yeah, they're doing really well. They're having a really good race.
And of course, that battle is still far from over. Let's see whether or not Jensen is close enough. He's about 7 tenths back. He'll close a little bit of that. But also, Jensen is catching Cable. Right now, the gap is 1.6 seconds on the racetrack. And last time by Caplet did a 138.5 compared to a 1 minute 39.2 for Tom Cable. So, with essentially 2 laps left in this race, about a lap and a half to go, there is a chance that Caplet can catch Cable. Ahead of them, Saletti is about 10 seconds, about 2.6 seconds off the road. It does look as though Saletti is a little bit faster right now than Tom Cable, so that battle for 6th, it looks as though that Saletti has that one in the bag for now. But we'll turn our attention very quickly to the battle for 3rd position, because Demikis has caught Patrice Langet. Last time by, took a full second out, and now Demikis is right on the tail of Patrice Langet as they work himself down the 3rd straightaway down towards heel corner. And Demikis is going to have to start setting up that pass now, because there is only going to be 1 lap left in this race. He'll have 1 chance, and you start making that. Oh, look at that, though. That is going to be very good there for Demikis. I was going to say he had to push for the last couple of corners. Now Langet struggling It's a case of you have to set up that pass, say now. If you're on the back straight, you've got to set it up now because you get a good run at the final corner, set yourself up through turn number 1, and then run it up the hill.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. Get a nice run, sit calmly, get a really good drive out of the first corner, and then just slipstream him. This is for the podiums. He didn't get a very good drive out of there. He's really going to struggle now to catch that gap back up. But this is for the final step on the podium. I mean, you know, what better way to finish this in the last lap battle?
Yeah, and Demetrius, he is struggling, but let's have a look at Diego Comini, because actually, we might have 1 lap left in this race. In fact, we will have 1 lap left in this race, because Diego Comini, we've got 17 seconds left on the play clock. 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, and he comes past the track with 10 seconds left, so we will go to 1 more lap in this race. So, Demetrius dodges a bullet there. He is 5/7 back over Patrice Languet. He is faster every other portion of the lap. He lost it, however, down into turn 1. His car just got a little bit loose on him. Once again, he's got to now just be patient. If he can't get away past into this corner, he is closing up. He will have to wait until either turn 1 if he's close enough, but more realistically coming down into the carousel. And again, this is the battle for the final step on the podium. The checkered flag is out. This is the last lap of the race, so Diego Comini is on his final tour of the circuit, and this is going to be a great battle for the final spot on the podium. Once again, set it up now. Demetrius lost a little bit there, and he lost a little bit more actually in the penultimate corner. Now down into the final corner, turn number 11, and Demetrius gaining, he does gain about a 1/10 of a second as they take the white flag. So down into turn number 1, Demetrius is going to have a picture perfect turn number 1. Patrice Languet might have to have a bit of an issue though for it to really happen. And Demetrius, again, he lost a little bit there. He'll get a lot of a drive through this section of the racetrack, but really now, for Languet, if he can hold on into turn number 8 of this lap, he's pretty much got that podium step in the bag. Gonna turn our attention to your race leader, Diego Comini, coming out of turn number 10 for the final time. 1 more corner left to go for the number 31 Team GT car. Out of the final corner he comes. He's dodged the top of the bullets in this race, but he will take victory in the Team GT machine in a time of 46 minutes and 21 seconds. Thomas Van Boosel is a full 34 seconds back on the road. No chance of him being challenged for second position. But Patrice Languet versus Andrea Demetrius, this is going to be the chance, David, and it's going to have to happen now for Demetrius, and he's not quite close enough. He will look down to the inside anyway. There's no chance he's going to get the job done, but he will then be on the outside. He wasn't quite close enough there to make the pass on Patrice Languet down into turn number 9. Languet struggles a little bit, however, this allows Demetrius to catch up a little bit. He'll come down to the final couple of corners for these two drivers. Can Demetrius get a good run out the final corner and try and make it a drag race to the line? He's got to try everything he has. He knows those tyres will be chucked in the bin after this race, but Languet will hold on to the 3rd position. Demetrius will come home 4th. The gap between those two drivers at the line, 0.2 of a second exactly. Fred Joseph in 5th, comes past the line now. Mattia Soletti in the 6th position. Just coming past the stripe right now, and he loses that. In fact, Soletti's lost a lot of positions there in the final lap of the race. We'll see what happened to him, because he started that lap in about the 6th position. Oh, he gets tagged from behind by Vivian Capulet coming up the hill, and Capulet spins his car as well. But it looks as though that Soletti lost more positions. Capulet just turning around. Soletti with 3 corners of the race left to go, allowed Peter Jensen and Tom Cable to go past. That was not a good moment there for Matti Soletti, who was running in about the 6th position on the racetrack, David. Falls down to 8 at the end of the race. And in fact, it does look as though we have lost David for the time being. Oh, no, he's back.
Sorry. Yeah, that was a really interesting race. I had hardware failure. I'm not sure what happened to Jonathan. I'd need to have a look at the replay. Diego, once again, I mean, trooper, just pounding out the laps, no mistakes. almost got collected by a few back markers. Yeah, I think the back marker and blue flag situation needs to be sorted out. So I can see quite a few people who are going to be frustrated by that. But yeah, all in all, a good race, really good battle for final step of the podium, and yeah, not bad.
Let's run through then your final running order. Diego Comini taking victory in a time of 46 minutes, 21 seconds by 35 seconds, almost 36 seconds actually, over Thomas Van Boosel, who comes home in second. Patrice Languet holds on to the final podium position in third. Andrea Demichius in fourth position. Fred Joseph in fifth. Tom Cable sixth. Peter Jensen seventh. Matteo Soletti in eighth. And Vivian Kapler in ninth. The last driver on the lead lap, Axel Dwerk, rounds out your top 10. In 11th is Anthony Voigt, Lorenzo Gobetti in 12th position, Andrea Michario 13th, Nick Phillips in 14th, Julio Anelias in 15th, Mick Claridge in 16th position, Lenny Mercer 17th, David Ward 18th, Jeremy Marguerite in 19th, and Jose Carlos Capenicuno in the 20th position. Rest results coming up on your screen momentarily. And in 2 weeks' time, the ESRA Rally Championship heads over to the shortest racetrack of the year, the brutal, the demanding Laguna Seca, Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, which will host the third round of the season. The rest of the season, it will be Circuit des Spa-Francorchamps, Canadian Tires Motorsports Park, Barber Motorsports Park, Okayama, and Silverstone to round out your championship. All this side of the new year, the last round, just 8 days before Christmas. But Laguna Seca in 2 weeks' time, shortest racetrack of the year. Of course, the demanding corkscrew the drivers will have to deal with is a narrow track once again. So back markers, traffic, it will all come into play. I'm sure Race Control will be having some words after this race. For myself, Will Vincent, and Yana Matake, this has been a Glacier TV presentation of the ESRA even, Riley Championship. I'm going to start that link again. One moment. Here we go. For myself, Will Vincent, and Yana Matake, this has been a Glacier TV presentation of the ERSA Riley Championship presented by GT Omega Racing. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time, same place, at Mazda Raceway, Laguna Seca. Until next time, bye-bye.